Good morning. Today I want to share 2 Timothy 3, verses 16 and 17, which says, "All Scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that the man of God may be adequate, equipped for every good work." What I thought really neat when I read this verse was the very first part says that all Scripture is inspired by God. I'm pretty certain Paul had no idea that the letter he was writing to Timothy that included this verse was going to become part of the New Testament. He had written other letters as well to churches that became part of Scripture in the New Testament. Paul would have known verses from the Old Testament, that Scripture. But to know that as he was writing, God was telling him what to write, and he was obeying that Spirit that was telling him what to write, and it became part of the Bible because people knew this was inspired by God, what he had said. And I thought of how often we may hear God telling us to do something, but if we don't write down what we hear God saying, we probably are not going to remember it. I know that there's times in my life that, somebody said, "Oh, you should write a book. You have all these stories of, or you're so funny." And I didn't write the stuff down, and so I don't remember it. But I've been journaling for quite a few years, and if I go back and reread, one thing I notice is how my journaling has changed. How I used to just take a scripture and this is what I think it means, but it has become more, what are you telling me through this scripture? Like a scripture verse will just kind of jump out at me, and I'll write that down and just kind of listen to what God's telling me and what he wants me to know. And there's also times where I will just, start out journaling by telling God how I'm feeling. And then a verse shows up in my devotions for that day, and I know that was what he wanted me to know. And I have realized that, I felt him prompting me first to do these devotionals on Facebook. Just write out a post and put, make a picture up with a verse on it. And then it became put it on YouTube. And so I started doing videos, and this stuff is out of my comfort zone, yet I obeyed because I felt that's what God wanted me to do. And so as I read this verse this morning, I thought, okay, God, I am writing down what you're telling me. And then I'm writing it on Facebook, and I'm speaking it on YouTube. And so whether or not, these things get blocked, God has a way of bringing people to see the post or the video that he wants them to see. He wants them to hear this message. And I have often said, Lord, if one person gets help by something that I said, then this is all worth it, because I know it's not just me talking, it's him speaking through me so that somebody hears what they needed to hear that day. And maybe what I'm saying today is for somebody tomorrow or a week from now or a month or a year from now. But I know what I want to encourage you today is write down what God is doing in your life. As you do your devotions, write down what he's saying to you. And then don't be afraid to share it, because you do not know how many people could be helped by your story, by what you learned, by what God taught you. There's so many times where we think, I don't have a story, or nobody wants to hear this. But don't be afraid to share, because there is somebody out there that needs to hear it. And even if one person gets something out of what God has done in your life, then it is worth it. So don't be afraid to share. God bless. Have a great day.